Hey, what's going on, everyone? The Glass Man here. You're watching the Glass Man's World, and we are about to work on some self-watering containers. So, I've talked about these for many, many years. I don't even remember when I learned how to make these and when I first started making them and then showing them to everyone. I know at least back to like 2012, probably a good 10 years, at least for the last decade. I've really been promoting and endorsing how to make these and basically promoting growing in them. So these are really awesome. I call them self-watering containers or self-watering planters. They're simply a wicking system for your plants. So this one here is a smaller version of one, and all it is a bottle that's had the top of it, like pretty much like 3/4 of it cut. You don't want to go in half, and sometimes depending on the bottle design, this one here has a little groove on the side here, so I just basically cut right above it to allow for this, and you can see how I kind of allowed a little bit of a flare or flange on top, so this will just sit perfectly right there, right in there. So I just cut that right above that little, right above that little indention there, or the transition of the bottle, with just a knife, just going in and cutting it like that, holding it in place, cutting it, and then boom. Then you put a hole through the top here, and then you have a wicking system. Now this wicking system we used just recently for the plant that's right behind us here in right behind that pole that you can't even see. It's our cilantro plant. And we just transplanted the cilantro or the coriander seed from this little growing bottle here and put it into a larger 2 liter system. So let me grab that for you so you can at least see what I'm talking about. All right, so this one here is so large. I made this extremely tall, a lot larger than most of the systems that I make. I researched that growing cilantro or coriander, you want a good 8-inch depth of soil to allow for the roots to really get to penetrate in there deep, and that way it'll promote for a much larger plant coming up on top. Now this one here was made out of two 2 liter bottles. This is the top of one bottle with the bottom cut off the top, or cut off the bottom. So as you can see, you have the cap there, only a small bottom in it, and I don't know if we have it. Oh, actually, here it is. I let our 4-year-old play with it. So we cut off this much of the bottom of this top one here. So pretty much the whole entire bottom. I do believe I basically just followed there's a little line right here underneath the label. If you lift it up, there's kind of like a little line that, I don't know if you can see that little seam line or not. But that's what I followed and cut that off. That was to allow for a really deep 8-inch growing pot here, or planter. And then we just basically did the same thing that we always do, which is using the knife to just kind of pop a hole and then carve it out of the cap, and then forcing a wick in there. Now this is a chamois cloth sort of wick. It's like it's a cloth, a super absorbent cloth. I got this at the dollar store for like a good sheet of it. I don't know how big it was. A foot by a foot, let's just say, 1 by 1 foot, which I then cut into little strips that you can see are like, half-inch thick. And I could technically even cut these even thinner. All they need to do is absorb the water up into the soil. So these work as like a taproot. It's an artificial taproot, and you're basically just promoting the plants to absorb the water from underneath, as if they're growing on the earth, and then are reaching for the water that's in the water table underground. You know, the groundwater that we have. So that's what this is. This is an artificial taproot, basically, that helps to pull water up from your artificial groundwater here. This is just a water reservoir. You can make this as big as you want. I could have actually made, we could actually use this bottle here, which, you know, now that I think about it, I'm like, we could just swap these out and have an even bigger watering system as long as the wick reaches the bottom, which it does. You can see that. Then it can pull the water all the way up into the soil here. So we could even use a taller water reservoir here. And one thing, it's good to keep the labels on, so you keep the sunlight from penetrating in. Also, you could just spray paint these black, and then that'll help keep the sunlight out. The sunlight getting in here will get algae eventually, but at the same time, once you start seeing a little bit of algae, you can simply just, you know, move this to another container real quick, and you can simply just wash this out. You can clean it out. And with us, we have Norwex all the time. That way we can make sure that we're removing 99.9% bacteria with just water. We're not using soap or any contaminants in our plant water. You know, you don't want to be using any soap or any kind of stuff like that. So using Norwex to clean it out is the best way for our home and our family. So today, I just want to show you real quick and easy, starting from scratch, how to make one from any sort of bottle. So we're going to use, instead of a 2-liter bottle, we're going to use this little, this Gatorade bottle here. And I'm not promoted by any of these companies here. You know, I don't even really drink sodas. This is all my wife pretty much with the Canadian Dry. I know it's Canada Dry, but I call it Canadian because they're all Canadians from Canada. And this is, you know, I don't really drink this. I don't know how we got this or when we got this. I also could have picked this up out of the trash or saw it on the ground and just grabbed it, because I don't even remember. You know, we don't really purchase this kind of stuff. Powerade, this is probably came out of the trash. We do drink juice, so these are our juice containers here. And anything that's in a green Canadian Dry or Canada Dry. All right, so let's take a look here. As you can see, this has a lot of different ribs and ridges on it. Now we could go right to the top here and just cut this off and then flip it over, and that would be a nice little a seed starter. You know, you don't really need very deep soil to start seeds, but if we wanted to have it a little bit deeper, we could have, you know, more of a plant area. And being that this just tapers down and tapers down even more, this is gonna, and this is tapered right here, this is gonna fit in any spot that we want to cut it. So we don't want to go too low. I'm thinking maybe here or maybe here would be a nice depth for a plant. Let's try that one there. And then that will allow for the cap, this cap right here, will then be about this deep, and that'll give us that much of a water reservoir. And that'll last at least a week, probably, for any small plant that would grow in here. So, and I'm debating, do I want to go here or do I want to go here? Because once you cut, because we can have a deeper water reservoir, and does 1/2 inch of soil, is that really going to make a difference in the plant? We're going to go here. I'm puncturing it. I've made my decision. That's where we're going. So we're going to go directly around this ridge here and just simply cut right around with this knife, and making sure to be very careful not to cut yourself. Also, I'm slicing through the label here, and I also want to make sure that I'm staying above that or in that ridge, so when I come back around, my cut is going to match up. And as soon as I get a little closer, see the cut's right here. So as soon as I get a little closer, I kind of slow down and really try to line up that last cut real slow, and bam, just like that. So then you got two portions. You make sure that that works, that it fits. Like I said, the way that it tapered here and the way that this tapers here, we're not going to have any issues. And then you can see, well, I don't know if you guys can see it. Here, let's look right there. There you go. You can see where the cap is. So the cap will go to about here. So now we need a wick that's at least this long, and it needs to go up into the soil at least a good inch or two. You know, so this one is actually too long. And we may need a shorter wick at some point for a little bottle. I don't know. But we can definitely trim this, or we can just leave it. You know, maybe one day we'll decide, you know what, I want to put this in a different container, and then we just put this in a different bottom with a taller water reservoir. So we're going to actually leave this long because it's not going to make any difference on if it's, you know, if it accordions up to the bottom. As long as it reaches the bottom, it's fine. You know, this thing can coil all the way up on the bottom. It's, no matter how much you have down here, it's not going to pull up any more water than it can into the soil. And if it pulls up more than it can, the soil won't be able to handle it, and it's going to just drip back down, you know, like a cloud or condensation. It'll just drip right back down into the water reservoir. So that's the beauty of these containers, is that not only are you you know, you're able to walk away for like weeks, and at first when you get your seeds started, when you put this much water in here, you won't have to water it for a month, a whole entire month, guys. That's ridiculous, right? And we got all kinds of other chamois cloth back here, so we got wicks for days. You know, these are all ready to go. These are long wicks, so in case we need them for our 5-gallon buckets, which is the bigger ones, which I don't think we're going to be making any of those today. I guess we could make one. I have two cat litter boxes, or those, you know, those square buckets, and we could actually make a couple larger ones. I don't know. Maybe we'll do that. We'll see. I kind of want to just do this quick and simple. My videos tend to go way too long. We're already at 15 minutes in. So let's finish this up here. We need to put a hole. Like I said, we just use our knife here. And I like to use my shorter blade, actually. So we use the shorter blade here. And you guys proceed with caution when doing this. I'm going to go directly in the center. You know, just find the center right there. And I hold my knife like this, you know, so it just kind of helped to give a little bit of a push. And then as soon as it goes in, you know, my thumb is basically holding it from going in too deep. And then I can kind of just open it up by spinning it around, just like that. And then it opens it up, and you get yourself a nice little hole in there. Just enough for the wick to fit in. See? It's bigger than the wick, so now you want to twist this up and then take the cap off. This makes it so much easier. Take the cap off, okay? Because you're going to have to twist this up, put it in there. You want this to be kind of tight because you don't want it to just fall out on you at any point. And then you just pull it up a good inch and a half, not too much. You can see it's like 2 fingers, I guess. And that's it. Then you screw this back on, and that's how you attach a wick to the bottle. Real simple, real easy. Now, I've been able to use t-shirt material. I've used sweatshirts. I've used, you know, in this container here, we have nothing but just yarn. A couple pieces of yarn, and that pulled up a little bit of water, but it's not pulling up enough. So we're going to redo this container here in just a moment. And that's the one that we're really going to be talking about for the mint. So this here is now done. So now you just simply fill this up with soil. You want to put a lot of loose soil to drop in here and and you don't want to pack it in really tight. You know, you just want it to just fall in there, and then you fill it up to the top, and that's it. And then you just put a seed, add some water. You don't want to fill it up higher than the cap level. So you don't want your soil to just be soaked and sitting in water. The very first time that you fill this, though, I would recommend filling it up a little bit past the cap, so all of the dry soil can then absorb that water, that, like, you know, half inch or 1 inch bit of water. It'll pull all that in, and then you won't have to then, like, refill it again on the very first day. So it'll drop down to the cap, and then it'll just do its thing. For, like I said, if you're starting a seed in here, you won't have to water it for 1 month. And we could do an experiment today and be like, all right, let's put some soil in here, and let's put a seed, and let's let it grow, and we won't fill it up for a whole month or however long. You know, we'll see how long it lasts. You know, it might even be longer than a month. Who knows? And that's only 2 inches of water. Now, the beauty of this system is, if this is outdoor and it rains, your water is going to come in here, right? Now, if it overflows, it's going to saturate the soil, and you don't want these to really be unmanaged by themselves outdoor all the time. You want to, you know, if you get some rains, really double check your layers or your levels of water and pour it out. You know, just pour out your excess water. Pour it on other plants that are in the ground that don't have this capability of holding its own water in. Now, the other thing of this is, because the water is contained in here, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to seep out into the groundwater. It's not going to get anywhere else. So you can keep these on your windowsill safely, and other things. So you can have a really beautiful windowsill indoor garden. You know, if you're living in an apartment, these are really good. You can keep these on your countertops. You know, if you're growing like cilantro, parsley. I don't know if you can grow oregano in something like this. You'd probably want a bigger flat container. You know, using those big containers for your, I don't know if you guys buy them with the lettuces. They have all the, like, the 50-50 mixed blends of, you know, different things. You get your chopped, your baby chard and kale and spinach and things like that in them. But you can use flat, long containers with two stacked on top, and you figure out a way to put like a little window on top, so you can have wicks going through from the top to the bottom. The bottom's always a water reservoir, and the top one is always holding the soil. All right, so that's done, and we can plant in here, and we can do that, but maybe let's do that experiment on the next video. And we'll just, I've never done editing, so we just would do an, I don't know, maybe we'll plant in here. We'll see. Okay, so this one here did have plants. As you can see, it has soil still from this one. So we basically started our seed starter. It still has the water in here. We didn't even use all the water that we needed to get these seeds growing. And as you can see, these are growing beautifully. And now we'll be able to watch the roots come down. I opened this up and took the labels off, just so I could see how deep the roots come down. And like I said, we have Norwex, so if I do get any sort of algae growth or anything on here, I can always, you know, we can start over a new thing. We can pull this out, put it into a new container. We can even turn it into a bigger one with the 5-gallon bucket. So I may, now that we have this other container, we may just do this. We may swap containers, pour this water right in here, just like that. And bam, that's now been swapped. And we can put this one away. Here, we'll just leave this on the side, so that way it's still in the screen here. All right, so let's work on this one now, guys. So we made this one here. So that's a built system here. This one's our old system that we had the cilantro in. So this one now, yeah, beautiful. And we got our kids' toys coming in here. All right. So now with this one here, This is made with 2 different juice bottles. As you can see, the way that this fits in here, you can't really cut these any taller because then they have this little thing right here, right? So I cut this as high as I could. Let's see if I can put it side by side so you can kind of see that. You know, that's pretty much how big of a system or area that you have for these. So if you do 2 inside of each other, might not work so well. Oh yeah, sorry. I was thinking that we're using this container. I forgot. We have another one though. Here, let me just pull out another bottle. We got plenty bottles. Plenty recycling. Alright, give me 1 sec. Well, I know there's one right here. Alright, so bam. I got recycling all set up all over the place. Because I'm always making plants and things. So, we are going to now do the same thing. We're going to cut this right up on top here. I like to keep the cap on. I don't know why. I think it just kind of helps with that first cut. And then we're going to go around this label top right here. We're just going to use that as our line. And when you're not cutting through the label, it's a little bit easier to just get through that plastic. And this isn't the sharpest and best knife, but it works. It does its job. I'm going to have a kitty tail in my face here in just 1 second. He's trying to tell me that he's hungry. I'm hungry. A little kitty meow meow. That's Aiden. So bam, then you cut that off. Oh, let me move this over. Sorry, that's taking up the whole area. So you basically just go around, you cut that off. Now, this is the bottom here that we can then put this on top, and I'm hoping it's going to work. Nice. Okay, so this is a square bottle on a round hole. So you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. That's not going to slide in. That's beautiful. One thing that we have issues with is sometimes these will slide into themselves because this will start to spread out over time, and the weight of the soil, these start to sink into themselves, and then they get really hard to pull them out. So if you can keep this up there like that, that'd be good. Also, I've always thought maybe there's a way that I could basically melt the top of this down just a little bit, so that way it would harden. You know, just getting a hot plate and spinning it on, spinning it on a hot plate like this would create a thicker rim or edge right on top of here, or on top of this one here, or this one here, and that would actually stop it from sinking in. So those are some things that over years and years of playing with these systems, I've been like, okay, let's figure that out. So this one here, you can see that the length of what I have in there is a pretty good length, so that's almost going to work. We're simply just going to cut one of these in half, and then we're going to put this in a good amount. Now, I may actually even bring this piece up really, really far in here because I want the soil to really get pulled high up in here and make sure that this is all saturated. But then I don't want to lose the moisture up top. We have a lot of holes, and I don't know if these holes are going to stop it. So I'm wondering if I need to pull the wick all the way through to about at least to here, instead of just doing our little 1 inch or 1.5 inch down on the bottom like that. I may actually make this long enough to where we're pulling moisture all the way up to the top, and that way this is going to grow mint, and when it grows mint, the mint should come out and shoot out through all the way around this whole thing, and this whole thing is just going to be like this big old, like a chia pet of mint. All right, so now we get to the fun, dirty and dangerous part of making a mess. All right, so I got this other pot here. It's just going to hold the soil. So I'm going to do this on the floor here, right in front of me. which there's no excitement to it. I'm simply just going to dump this soil into the pot here, and then we will fill it back up later. So I just got to get it out. I got to break it up because it's all hard. And this bottle, oh, also it's holding on to the wick, I see. Alright, okay, there we go. Gotta get that big old soil. Look at this. So the wick, see how the wick is through there? And I did pull it through quite a bit actually, so that's a long wick. So we will do that, but we're gonna use a better, more absorbing material because that, the yarn didn't cut it. The yarn will work for small, very small bottles and systems like this one here. The yarn can work for that. This is a shoestring. So the shoestring, I think that's a shoestring. That could actually be a, no, that's actually an old chamois wick. Okay. So that one will last forever. These chamois wicks last forever. If you use a t-shirt, the t-shirt for some reason breaks up. I don't know if it's because it was made with bleach and all these chemicals, and so it actually breaks down in water like over a year. It's so weird. If you put a t-shirt in water and you just leave it in there, it's gonna just break down. That's so weird. I don't know why. With cotton, I'm talking about cotton. Okay, so let's clean our little mess here. All right, so now we need to make sure that we have this wick in here. That hole is not big enough, so we're gonna make a hole a little bit bigger for the wick. All right, that's better. So just a little bit, and I basically just put my knife right through it. So, you know, as wide as my knife blade is, that's how I know how big I like to use them. Also, we don't need this whole, wait, do we need the whole thing? And here, we got to put it in the right bottle to make sure that we have a long enough wick. You know what, we're going to use that whole entire wick because that wick, it's only that much longer to the bottom. So we're going to use the whole entire wick here. So this, we no longer need. We can use it as a little container. You know, look at this right here. There's a bottle top that we just cut off of that one, right? Well, now we got another system right there. But look at that. See how that will fall in? So that's not very good. And just a little bit of weight in there, you know, with the soil, that'll fall in. If I did that melting thing on the top of this, maybe we can fix that. All right, so let's get this wick into the cap. So I just simply I spin it around itself, just like that. I don't know if you see what I'm doing. Just kind of spin it up around itself. And then I force it in with a little bit of a twist, and it comes through, and as soon as it comes through, then you just grab it from that part there, and you pull it out, and you pull it up. And then we need to see how far we want to pull it up. So probably to about there. And then we put this long portion in, just like that, and we recap it, and that's done. Now, when we fill this up with soil, I'm going to use wet soil. So we're going to actually moisten this whole entire thing of soil here before I put it in. Maybe on the bottom I'll put dry soil, but once we get to the holes, I want to make sure that the soil is wet and it's not going to just fall out through the holes. And then we're going to hold this wick in place, and we're going to make sure that the soil fills around evenly around the whole entire wick. So I'll hold this in place as I'm putting in more soil, more soil. All right, so, and then let's make sure that it fits to the bottom. As you can see, the wick goes all the way to the bottom. So without a problem, that's going to work beautifully. Okay, so let's get this soil moist. So I got a jug of water here on the floor with me. So we're all prepared. Hey Aiden, get down. So climbing on top of all of our food and all of our stuff on the counter. These cats don't know how to not get on top of things. They don't listen. But we love them. Huh, meow meow. Alright, so got the soil here. I'm just breaking it up because it's in chunks. Like these chunks like that. So we just break it all up. They were bigger, but now they're just little chunks. So we break up all these little chunks. That way the soil can absorb the moisture. Alright, and I am actually going to fill this up with just a little bit of soil that's dry first, because I know that the wick will just stand there in place for a minute and I can get it around in that bottle cap there. Alright, let's do that again. And also, you know, if I just like filled it and didn't hold it in the center and accidentally filled it to where it's like leaning to one side, you can simply just grab your wick and then, you know, you just kind of give it a shake and it'll recenter itself. See that? So now the wick is in the center again. So, and I want to make sure it's perfectly centered, so I'm going to do a little bit extra. And we'll keep on filling it up with a little bit of dry material, because I want to see if I can show you on camera how quick this material will absorb the water from the water reservoir underneath it. Okay, so we almost got it filled up to the holes here. Yeah, we're at the holes now. Any more and that's just gonna make a mess. Okay, so now you can see we got that all full of soil, and the wick is still in the center, directly in the center there. We've just been holding it and then filling it. So now that's going to start absorbing the moisture, and we can use a smaller bottle here since we have this one on the side for you to see a little bit of the capillary action of how this pulls the water up. And I'm just going to use a little bit. We're not going to fill it up too much. I do want to get some of the cap in the water. So here, let me just show you. Just bring this down just a little bit. So now you can see that cap. See, the cap's going in the water right there. And we want it to just absorb just a little bit. So you see how I have now the cap is in the water. Of course, when I fill it up with this, it'll be a lot different in the water level, because then the cap will be a lot higher in this bottle compared to this one. But for right now, so you can have a visual, maybe you'll be able to see the capillary, how it works, how it absorbs the water up into the soil, and then eventually this soil, it's dry, it should get darker and darker on the bottom there. So we'll see in just a moment. And as we're doing that, I'm going to get our soil down here on the floor ready. So I'm simply just going to pour some of this water all the way around. And I really wish I had, oh, this will work. I may have to go get my shovel. I mean, I guess I can get my hands dirty. I might have added way too much water for this to hold. I may have to go running outside real quick. We'll see. We'll see. Alright. So let's absorb all this water here. in the soil. I'm gonna get my hands dirty. I'm just gonna screw it. So I'm just mixing it with my hands here. And so you want to have your soil to where, you know, you make a ball, and then it just kind of stays clumped like that, you know, and it doesn't have any soil, you know, like, well, actually, it doesn't have any moisture, and then I squeeze it, and then it's like, oops. So you know, you don't want to have any water dripping out, right? So that's a good soil right there. So we can put that in there. We don't have to do that though. I'm not going to squeeze every single time. But I just wanted to show you that it's not too moist, and hopefully this water will drip back in. Like it's almost to the rim of the plate, but I think we're safe. Okay, so now we're gonna just get this, start filling it up with the wet soil here. I'm gonna make sure not to put this wet wick into the soil. And we're just gonna fill this up around that wick there. And the soil is heavier, so it is going to try to bury the wick. So you're really gonna have to keep pulling it up. Oops, I got the wick in the dirt. I'm trying to lift it up so I can show you what I'm doing. I got it in the dirt. Alright, so what I'm doing here, as you can see, the wick just got buried. So you have to go in here and then find the wick and then pull it back up to the center. And you can just move your soil around, just like that. Alright, I'm trying not to make too much of a mess here on the floor. We're in the living room here, but that's alright, because I can sweep it up real quick and easy. And we're just going to fill this up. Now, we're at the top of the wick here. We just want to make sure that wick stays centered. And then the rest of it, we can just cover the top. So, I don't know if you guys can see that, but the wick pretty much to the top there. And now we're just going to fill the rest of it up. And there is some soil coming out these holes a little bit, but if I was using just dry soil and trying to fill this up, we'd be losing it all over the place. So it's better to have, if you're going to do something like this is good for, you know, your mint. You can have bigger holes to grow strawberries, which I would love to actually try to do that soon. So we may actually do that on another video coming up here. And any kind of other plants that, you know, would grow out through the sides like that, you know. But strawberries and mint, onions and garlic are other ones, I believe. Chives, things like that. Alright, so now this is pretty much all the way to the top, as high as I can fill it. And this is now ready to plant. Now, being that we already have this moist, I don't know if you can see the difference in soil color. You can see the moist soil up top and then the dry soil down below. And eventually that dry soil, oh, we're going to have to clean this off here as best as we can. Might go take it to the sink and just rinse it off. Which, it ain't a problem. It's just the water, you know, I like to keep my water clean. But eventually the sediment will just go to the bottom of the bottle anyways. But I kind of wanted to have a clean wick to show you guys all. But that's alright. Now we're going to put this back into the bigger bottle that it belongs in. And that is now a done system right there, guys. So that's it. Quick and easy, real simple. Now this is top heavy. This will fall over, guys. So we definitely need to make sure that we get some water in the bottom of the system real quick, or else this will fall over. Now that's the only drawback that I have with making these is that uh-oh, did I put too much? Woo! I put a little bit too much water in there. But the water that it's now gonna it's the soil sitting in there. The water's at least this high right now. And that cap's gotta be probably about right here. So I'm thinking, yeah, it's sitting in a good inch or so. So that's gonna absorb the water real quick, and this will be ready. We can plant now. And that's about it, guys. We'll make another video on another time on how to do a 5-gallon bucket system with the cat leader. The cat leader? No, it's cat litter. And so we're gonna use the cat litter boxes or buckets on the next video coming up, and I'll show you how to make a 5-gallon bucket self-watering system just like this. We call them Dutch buckets, which means it's two buckets, a 2-bucket system. And we'll get this filled up with soil, which, you know, we actually could just use this soil right here. There, we'll just get this one going right now too. Add a little, see, I prefer to use dry soil because then you can get it into the cap. So I'm gonna have to use my finger and get that wet soil down into the cap, because you really want to make sure that this bottom area does have a lot of compact soil in there. So then that also works as like a wick. It'll help to pull that all the moisture up into the rest of the loose soil up in here. So yeah, you really want to make sure that the soil is compact around the wick, just in the bottle cap area. All right, and I'll be able to keep this wick clean, and then you can see, you'll be able to see the difference. All right, here, let's get a little bit more soil right there, and that is pretty much topped off, just like that, and ready to be planted, guys. So there you have it right there. That's another system right there with a clean wick. I didn't accidentally put that in. And you just drop that in. Oh, one thing though, let's make sure we got some water in here. Now this one, I really like these bases because these don't become so top heavy. These are really nice bottles with a flat bottom. And if we can figure out how to heat up the bottoms of our 2-liter bottles, we may be able to create flat bottom planters for all of our planters, and don't have that issue of them falling over and being too top heavy. So a flat bottle like this, really excellent, guys. I would highly recommend using these ones. But the 2-liter systems that we have, I have a system back here that they fit in. So let me just show you real quick, because these are going to go home now to where they belong. We're going to put these where they need to go. So basically I picked up those little holders there that are, it's what they deliver these bottles in to the stores. And sometimes the stores just put them over there in the dumpsters off the side to throw them away. So instead of letting those go to the landfill, I end up using those blue crates right there that hold the 2 liters, and then I can have 8 2-liter plants in there. I can carry them if I want to move them outside and put them out in the sun. I can move my plants out in the sun. I can bring them in. If it's too stormy and too windy, I can bring them back in and save them from all of that. So that's the beauty of having these kind of systems and growing in containers is that I could actually bring in a 5 gallon bucket system inside the home if the hail starts coming down during, August, September, or if we get some crazy winds or rain from all this weird, interesting weather that we've been having recently. So this is a way that I can actually have a mobile garden and move it in and out, and it's portable, and I can keep it safe. So, and also this is how I can keep it watered without having to stay on it every day. A lot of people, they say I can't grow because all they're just forgetting to water. That's all, or they're watering over watering and watering too much. So with a system like this, it's not going to pull up any more moisture than it needs. Like I said, this is an artificial taproot system, so it's going to pull up as much moisture as it needs. And if the soil gets oversaturated, that moisture is going to get too heavy and just simply drip right back down. So there you have it. This is how you make self-watering systems. We now have a brand new system with a beautiful wick that goes up. We're no longer using this yarn. This yarn did not cut it. It does work for shorter systems like this, but not for a really tall system. So now we got that beautiful wick in there. We're going to test it out. We're going to see if that moisture stays in that soil. And if so, we're going to grow some mint in there real soon. All right, I'm going to let y'all go. You guys have a beautiful day. Love and blessings. I'm Dan the Glassman, and you've been watching the Glassman's World. Make sure to like this video and be sure to subscribe for more updates and notifications. All right, you guys have a beautiful day. Love and blessings.